This program is powered by thevirtual.show, making your offline events virtual. Ladies and gentlemen, the host of WEBIT Virtual, Dr. Plamen Rusev.
Such a pleasure to have you with us. Wonderful WEBIT community from all around the world. So many registrations from so many countries, I didn't even know some of them exist, which of course shows my need of upgrading of my geography knowledge. But still, it's such a pleasure to have you all with us. And of course, the pleasure to host some of the brightest and bravest minds of this planet here as my special guests. Before I introduce my guests, let me remind you of a number of great things that we've planned for you during the next couple of months. Let me start with the biggest one, which will be held starting 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 of December. It is the Global Impact Week by WEBIT, with some of the biggest and most important companies, policy leaders, innovators, and people who make a positive change in our world. And then there will be another round of events for different parts of the world, APAC and South America, and some more, which you will know, and we will keep you posted during the next couple of weeks. So gear up. It's going to be a fantastic second half of 2021. Hopefully, we will all meet in person, but definitely you have one thing for sure, it will be hybrid, using the best in the world platform for virtual and hybrid events called the Virtual Show by WEBIT. Now, without further ado, allow me to introduce my very special guest today.
Ajay Bhalla is president of Cyber and Intelligence Solutions for Mastercard. He leads the team that develops product solutions to ensure the safety, security, and experience of our products and solutions for customers, merchants, partners, and governments around the world. Ajay serves on the company's management committee. Prior to this role, Ajay was president of the digital payment services business for Mastercard. He led the development and growth of the business in e-commerce and innovative payments processing, establishing Mastercard as a pioneer and leader in many markets in this space. Previously, Ajay was president of Mastercard for South Asia and Southeast Asia, where he led the business in 18 markets. During his tenure, Mastercard became a market leader in many markets and grew our business multifold, launching several innovative payment solutions.
True honor to have here someone who once said that AI is the key tool which will shape our future. It can only do so with widespread trust. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the true pleasure and honor to have Mr. Ajay Bhalla here with us. Ajay, such a pleasure. Thanks for joining.
Dr. Rusev, great to see you. I hope you are well.
It's the same here. I hope that you are well. It's such a pleasure to see you well. Unfortunately, not in person as we used to, but still a wonderful opportunity to meet and to interact under the circumstances, I believe the best one.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining. Because we don't have time, and I'm very, very conscious of how busy is your time, I will start with the questions because we have a bunch of them, and we have live audience now which most probably will bombard us with more. So my first question for you is, how impactful is AI technology in driving change in society, and how is Mastercard using this technology?
Dr. Rusev, thanks. That's a great question. Thank you for having me at WEBIT. It's always a pleasure to join you. So I think the way we got to look at AI, it's the foundation of building an inclusive, a collaborative, a digital world, because AI has the ability to digest vast amounts of data and identify patterns beyond human capability. And so, I always say it's like new electricity powering our society and driving forward progress. Now, we know that AI technologies are helping the world during this pandemic, which has been going on for more than a year. It's been helping, companies accelerate the development of the vaccines. It helped governments plan the entire lockdown of cities. We've also seen the extraordinary impact AI has had on agriculture, on food production. We are seeing the same now happen on the climate crisis, where advanced AI technologies are being used to help with minimizing waste, fueling clean energy. Now, at Mastercard, AI is the backbone to everything we do. It powers our network. We basically have put it on top of our network. So everything you see in Mastercard really is frankly using artificial intelligence technologies. And, it enables our work in areas such as identity, work in e-commerce, our work with governments, small and medium businesses, amongst others. And, we have been on this AI journey, I would say, for some years now. It started with us doing an acquisition in California of a company called Brighterion, which is a pure AI company. Since then, we've opened a network of R&D labs and AI innovation centers in many global cities. And we are using it to protect against fraud in payments. We are using it to find fraud in healthcare. Is being used to improve consumer experience. Just last year, we filed more than 100 AI patents. So it's a very important part of our strategy as a company. Now, one of the other things which AI has also enabled Mastercard is to advance the equitable economic growth and inclusion. That's something which is very important to us as a company. And in 2020, we doubled our commitment to inclusion of bringing 1 billion people into the digital economy by 2025.
Ajay, I would like here, really, it's because this is a very, very important topic. And we were absolutely honored and proud at WEBIT and the virtual show to support the UNGA SDG Action Zone and further to be partners of the Global Festival of Action. And of course, Goal 2030 is in the NDA of our global WEBIT community of over 1 million digerati around the world. But we listen and we talk and we have activists and we have all types of communities as part of the WEBIT environment. And people are worried about AI, especially we talk about consequences such as racial or gender bias and leading to financial exclusion. So it's how is Mastercard approaching this and general approach to how actually Mastercard is supporting inclusion?
So, I think that's a very, very good question. And that's a question, I think, which is being debated in several parts of the world. It's a new technology. It's an innovative technology. It's a very cool technology. And it is bound to get some people worried. One of the simple things I always say is for innovation to actually be successful, it has to be good for people. If it's not good for people, then, what is this innovation for? It's of no use. And the way we ensure this is to acknowledge and address, the needs from our design perspective when we design the systems and solutions at AI. And, trust cannot be an afterthought. And that's why I say it has to be in the design and when you're designing the solution, when you're designing the AI technology, you've got to remember that you keep that as a very, very important strategy considerations. And we've been very clear about this from a start. So we've implemented a very open, fair, and an inclusive system. We are clear that it takes ages to build trust, but it takes only minutes to destroy it. So as a company, we are very, very committed. that AI has to be implemented so that it does not create any biases of any kind. Now, regulation and governance also has a role to play in this. Many governments are considering regulations in this area. We saw European Commission has also released a paper asking for a discussion on this. But personally, if you ask me, I have always been an optimist and believe that it's only with newer, good technologies can we actually progress as a society. So at Mastercard, our vision, as I was articulating earlier, is to have a connected world that supports a prosperous and an inclusive society for everyone. And the way we are implementing AI is absolutely on those principles. We are screening all the transactions that are done on the Mastercard network. It's almost 90 billion transactions that are being, AI is being used. We've stopped more than $20 billion of cyber attacks in the past 3 years. And just in last year alone, we stopped $20 billion of fraud using artificial intelligence technologies. And in addition, we've also...
That's fascinating. That's amazing work you've done. That's unbelievable.
I mean, I can go on. As you can see, there is so much we are doing with AI that, our time is limited. So, again, to summarize, I think we are very confident that if organizations apply those principles while designing AI, then this technology will help society, it will help the organization, it will help the world.
Absolutely, Ajay. I look at the questions we have, and they're like endless. And I'm not sure how many of them we are going to be able to answer. Wonderful WEBIT community, just stay with us. After a very brief break, we will continue with the questions and answers by my friend Ajay Bhalla, President Cyber Intelligence Mastercard.
The Virtual Show, the only one-stop shop event virtualization platform, bringing together hundreds of thousands of people by virtualizing human interactions. Fully customizable lobbies, conference halls, exhibitions, networking lounges with one-to-one, one-to-many meetings, group workshops, resources, help desks, and so much more, such as unparalleled content production like no other in the world. The Virtual Show. Transform your virtual experience today.
This program is powered by thevirtual.show, making your offline events virtual.
Welcome back to WEBIT, meeting you with President, Cyber and Intelligence Mastercard. Ajay, such a wonderful opportunity to have you with us and to share your thoughts and ideas in where AI is taking us as part of the AI architects infrastructure of WEBIT. We are talking about how and where we are heading. And you just mentioned before the break how many amazing things you've done, mentioning numbers like preventing 20 billion fraud using technologies, and only at Mastercard. That's phenomenal. What are the next steps to optimizing data as the new currency that will redefine customer interactions and distinguish an organization's digital capability and performance?
So that's a very, very important question. I think it's an important question for today and even more important question for the future. Now, the world has been digital for some time, but the last 12 to 15 months, everybody's gone digital. And that means more and more volumes of data that's getting produced. By 2025, it's estimated that consumers will create an estimated 463 exabytes of data every day. You can imagine the kind of data that's going to get created every day. And then pair that with all the technological changes that are happening. So, we are all familiar with the conversations on the Internet of Things. The The estimate is 50 billion devices connected to the internet by 2025. There are already billions connected to the IoT, net now. So you can imagine all these devices, your car, your watch, your phones, your homes, all generating these zillions of data. And then layer that on top with the 5G technologies that are going to be rolled out globally. They have already been rolled out in many parts of the world, but in the next 3 to 5 years, we will see them all pervasive. They're going to change the bandwidth speed, the latency, and that means, again, more data pass through the networks. And then again, all the technology changes that we are seeing in quantum computing, that's again going to completely revolutionize the fundamentals of computing. And, many tests have been done. It's probably still a few years away, but, that's how the technology world always maps out. It's always in the future, and then suddenly one day it shows up. And if you combine all these technologies and the things that are happening, it tells you that looking at technologies which can help us manage, understand, think through all this data is extremely important. And that's where the role of artificial intelligence is critical. Now, even if you look at from the cyber environment, which is a topic which is very close to my heart, in the last 12 to 15 months, we've seen digital fraud really go up. Like it's now 90% of all fraud. And because everybody's gone digital. And, using all the data points, using the behavioral data that we can see from devices, using AI technologies is now actually helping us manage the risk of these transactions and to keep fraud very, very low. This is just a glimpse of what we are doing today and what we can expect in the future.
That's the numbers you're sharing are like mind-blowing. Of course, we've heard of. Obviously, it's exponential, and it's interesting because we have all this digerati, mainly business community from all around the world. By the way, Studio, how many people do we have live now? If you can check and let us know. But in terms of organizations, it's important for me to know how can organizations embrace and invest in digital innovation without compromising privacy and protection, which is your sweet spot. Can you tell me the number of how many people we have live now with us? Studio? I don't have a... Yeah, all right. They will tell me later. So, Ajay, sorry for interrupting. Go ahead, please.
So, we live in a time of such rich innovation where technology is changing at such a fast pace that it has almost limitless potential to change our world and our society. I think the challenge with all innovation and all new technologies is that we got to do it in such a way that inspires confidence in society, inspires confidence in consumers, because if we cannot protect their privacy and cannot protect their security, they're not going to trust it. They're not going to use it. And that will be a real wasted opportunity because these technologies have the potential of changing our world. So some of the areas which we believe are really important and critical for organizations to look at are at looking at security and privacy from a design perspective. So just like when I mentioned, the biases bit you should look at from a design perspective when you actually make the AI algorithms. Similarly, when you look at the AI technologies that you implement for your companies, we at Mastercard, for example, we've been very particular that security and privacy is by design is our central to our approach. And it means that everything we build, we start by taking that as the first starting point. And, we've developed leading technologies in the area of biometrics and cyber, in fraud detection. And, that is a very, very starting point. The other big important piece is standards. I think, several standards organizations have been working on this. We are part of several standard organizations in the world. And that's very important that globally there is a standards framework that is implemented, which the industry pursues and follows, which ensures that privacy and security are implemented in the design of all these AI solutions. I'll give an example. In the identity solution space, where we've got a number of solutions, we have been implementing these technologies, keeping in mind that the privacy and the security is of the utmost importance. And that's why consumers have embraced it, merchants have embraced it, banks have embraced it. We are doing the same with the digital identity services that we are launching, where we have created a framework of principles or Bill of Rights, which we see as fundamental to digital identity. So again, very important to keep the principles in mind as organizations embark on this.
Thank you so much, Ajay. Time is really pressing us. We have 2.6, over 2,000 people with us, and there are so many questions, but I need to ask you at least a number of those within the next 8 minutes and to have your answers. One of them particularly is, how will the next wave of AI innovation impact the economy? And how does that affect your investment approach at Mastercard?
So I think the world around us has actually changed dramatically in the last 15 months. We may think it's a pandemic, and thankfully it's going away in most parts of the world. Unfortunately, it's still there in some part of the world. But I think all of us believe that there is hope and that the world will open up. What happened in the last 15 months was consumers, corporations, businesses, governments, everybody went digital. And while the physical world will come back and we will all start traveling, I think some of the habits which consumers have discovered, the convenience that consumers have discovered, is going to keep them hooked to digital technologies for a very, very long time. In fact, I think forever. And that means AI can play a very, very important role in enablement of many of these digital technologies that we all operate, that we all see, whether you order groceries or you access digital services from the government. So I think the next wave of AI is actually already here with us. And it's only going to increase like a geometric progression as the world opens up. And AI-driven systems will be critical to the world going digital in such a big way. And for this reason, we've been investing very, very heavily in AI technologies. I mentioned to you earlier that we acquired Brighterion, which is a pure AI company out of California. We've also invested in several new capabilities. We acquired a company called New Data in Canada, Risk Recon in the US, and we just announced recently the acquisition of an identity company called Ekata. All these companies are powered by artificial intelligence. So we've been investing heavily in the capabilities, to equip the world for this and our customers for the future. The second big piece we've been investing is people. Now, of course, we get a lot of talent when we acquire all these companies, but what we've also been focused on training are people in the company. So we've been tying up with several leading academic institutions. We have a tie-up with Oxford University on Cyber Futures program. We have a partners program with MIT and with several leading universities to help us train our people in the tools and solutions of artificial intelligence. And lastly, we've been investing in tech and R&D hubs. And I think I mentioned it earlier that we've opened 5 AI innovation hubs in California, in Vancouver, in France, and in some of these other cities, where we are very focused on making sure that some of these newer AI technologies, capabilities actually reach our customers in these markets. So that's what we've been focused on.
Well, it's no pressure, not doing too much. It's it sounds like you are changing the world your way, and Mastercard is definitely one of these companies that makes the difference. And you yourself being responsible for the most important thing, the trust in the company, the cyber protection solutions. You make the difference, and that's why I'm so grateful for your time spending it together with our global WEBIT community. We only have time for one last question, and we always ask this question at the end of every WEBIT Virtual event. It's been, I believe, over 70 already since the pandemic started and pushed us virtual. And it is a very straightforward one, no pressure. What is your vision for the coming decades, and what are your predictions?
So I think if your question is very focused on AI, then I'll answer it on AI. But so that's my question to you. Do you want me to talk about in context of AI, or are you posing a broader question?
Well, it will be even broader if I ask you to talk about all other elements, because there are like tons of all these exponential technologies which are changing the environment and the world as we know it. But maybe if we add AI, blockchain, and another few exponential technologies that you are looking at, most probably it will give a very good idea of the community where you see the world heading to.
Okay, so let me give you a few thoughts here. I think the first point is that the next decade is the consumer decade. And we are already seeing that trend. I think this is the next decade is where the consumer will be the real king. You know, they already are creating many of these large corporations, which you see, because, you know, consumers are enjoying the benefits from these companies. But I think we will see the consumer convenience, the consumer privacy, the consumer security, the consumer ownership of data. I think it's going to be a very important piece in the next decade. I think the second big piece is security and data. I think the importance of privacy, the importance of data, and who owns it and who runs it, and the importance of security will be even more important than we've ever seen, because the world will be digital, and it will be digital like we've never seen before, which means it'll also come with larger insecurities. It'll also come with hacks and breaches. And I think society, corporations, governments, all of us have to get together to play a major role in ensuring that consumers and society remains protected. And the third bit I will say is that the newer technologies that are coming up, I think AI is one big one. It's probably the centerpiece of many of the technologies which are coming out, will play a major role in determining future industries. So AI, I spoke about quantum computing earlier. I spoke about the 5G technologies earlier, and the IoT space with the kind of data. I think if you look at just these 4 or 5 space, you are probably looking at multi-trillion business opportunities getting created in the next decade. And I hope all of us are part of that new wave of opportunity that's going to arise.
Absolutely, Ajay. And we shall follow you so we know one of the right paths ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, the WEBIT beautiful community has been in touch today with Ajay Bhalla, President of Cyber Intelligence Solutions for Mastercard. He leads the team and develops product solutions to ensure the safety, security, and experience of the Mastercard products. Ajay, such an honor and pleasure to have you with us. Wonderful people at WEBIT. We shall meet again next Tuesday. In the meantime, those of you, the thousands of you who were today with us, if you have not registered for subscribe for our newsletter so you keep updated in regards to our live and hybrid upcoming events in 2021. And I'll see you next week, Tuesday, same time, with our next fascinating guest at WEBIT Virtual. Ajay, thank you again. Thank you, all of you, WEBIT Digerati from all around the world. Talk soon.
Dr. Plavan, thank you for having me.
This program is powered by the Virtual.show, making your offline events virtual.